Hi, I'm Jim W6LG, your ham radio Elmer, here on YouTube. Welcome to my radio room in Rocklin, California. And as you can tell, I'm suffering through the throes of chemotherapy and its effect on me. For a very long time, I have puzzled over the question, what transceiver should a new ham radio operator purchase for the HF bands? To me, HF is the most fun, and it is just, in 60 some years of doing it, I still get a thrill out of talking to friends around the world, or in some cases in the middle of the country. Give an example. The other night I woke up, it was 11 o'clock at night or so, local time. Came in here, turned on the transceiver, and there was a very familiar voice, and that was Wolf, DF2PY. And Wolf had visited us on Wolf Mountain, and he's just a great guy, and I said hello to him. He was talking with a guy on a sailboat near Hawaii. So we had this sort of triangular contact going on. Finished with Wolf because I wanted him to continue with his friend. Went down the band, and there was Mike, OE6MBG. And Mike had also been to my home, and a super nice guy, and said hello to him for a few minutes, and then ran across Juan, EA3 Blue Ocean X-Ray, who always has a terrific signal into California. Point being, it's just a lot of fun, and I would like to see a lot of guys get on HF and have some of that fun too. We'll talk about what the most important parts of an HF station happen to be in a subsequent video, because I have some very strong feelings about that. The problem I run into, and I've always run into, is at $1,000 and above, there are some really great choices. Some of the new Yaesu, the 710, and the FTDX10, the ICOM 7300, the most popular transceiver ever manufactured for HF use, and for good reason. It just flat works great. But what do you tell the guy who can't afford a $1,000 transceiver? And there's a lot of people who don't have the $1,000 to invest in an HF transceiver. And as you may know, that's just the beginning of the expenses. So I've looked around, and a series of events happen, one of which is really pretty funny. As you saw the opening slide, that was Josh. Josh was in his car making a video about installing a speaker to the headrest. And he was dialing around 20 meters. The short skip was in, and he could hear me really well, like 20 over 9. And he could hear the guy I was talking to, who was in Southern California. Josh recorded the conversation, uploaded it to YouTube. And once it went live, I started getting phone calls from guys saying, "Hey, you're on Josh's channel." And I had no idea, how did I get there? So I played it, and what had happened was, it was a guy running a Chinese transceiver, the G90. And during the course of the conversation, I complimented the guy on the great transmit audio, and I asked him what transceiver he's using. And I really liked it. It sounded terrific. I called Josh on the phone, and Josh was really nice, and we talked about transceivers, and he gave me some great advice, and I asked if I could use clips from that video in this one, and he said, sure. So that sort of got the wheels spinning, and
came back to a receiving device. Well, thank you very much for that wonderful explanation, Jim.
He is 20 over S9.
Is critical on the spacing of the, and we had the 406C line when I was president of the
He's an S7. He's in California. We're all in California.
Look forward to working you down the band again, or up the band in either case. And it's been a real pleasure to talk with you, Jim. And again, we'll look forward to touching base. W6LG, WB8HBK. WB8HBK, W6LG. Luke, tell me again the model number of that transceiver. Yes, it's a Xeigu G90. Golf 0 with the Xeigu XPA.
20 watts. Your S7 here.
Okay, what's the price
of
the 90 by itself? Oh, it sounds like you've got at least 10 dB of clipping, so it could be slightly lower. But it is a very punchy audio, very good for pileups, lots of highs, not many lows. I looked on the Scopy thing I got running, and it looks clean as a whistle, so I'm pretty impressed. Well, thank you very much for the feedback. I have a tendency to have a...
Look at that. Jim with the audio report on the Xeigu G90. Right on.
I played that video a number of times, and then I kept running into people using the G90, and I thought, I wonder if that would work. The parameters that I set for an HF transceiver were, if at all possible, new. So the guy could literally put it on the desk. It would have warranty if it needed, but likely it's just going to work and work great. 2, that it had a decent receiver. 3, that it had a decent transmitter. And 4, that it ran 100 watts. And my thinking behind that is effective radiated power. A guy who's running 100 watts is quite a bit stronger than a guy who's running 5 watts. I couldn't quite fill that bill, but I did find the G90, which runs 20 watts output, and I've got it on a stand over here. I bought one. The G90 is described by the manufacturer as a portable SDR shortwave transceiver with a general coverage receiver from 500 Hertz to 30 megahertz. The transmitter covers all HF amateur bands with a power output of 20 watts in most modes. It has a built-in CW filter that goes down to 50 Hertz. It has a built-in CW decoder. The head unit is detachable. The spectrum and waterfall displays cover 48 kilohertz. The antenna tuning unit will match a wide range of impedances, and it did for me. Has a built-in SWR meter. Modes include CW, lower sideband, upper sideband, AM, and FM. The main tuning knob covers in steps 10, 100, 1 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, and 100 kilohertz. The receiver sensitivity they state at 0.25 microvolts. I found it to be a little bit less than that. Has a built-in RF preamplifier, a built-in RF attenuator, has some image rejection built into it, has a noise blanker. Its frequency stability was found to be better than 1 part per million. Spurious emissions down greater than 50 dB, and I agree with that. Carrier suppression greater than 40 dB. Microphone input impedance from roughly 200 to 10 kilo ohms, with 600 ohms being about right. I bought it from Radioddity. I paid regular retail, ordered it, and they shipped it. The price at the time I purchased it about 2 weeks ago was $400, $399.95. Included the DC cord, the microphone, a separation cable, and a couple of other little things. And so I set about testing it to see if it was any good. The upshot is, yeah, it turns out it meets the specs as outlined in their instruction book. I didn't find anything that was an exaggeration of its performance. Looking at the front panel now, the layout of the controls is relatively simple. They're well marked, tiny. VFO knob is way too small diameter for me, so that's a big negative. But having said that, it's $400. It did put out 20 watts into a Bird demi-load through a Bird 43 watt meter. By the way, in adjusting the power output using a front control, if you set the thing at 10 watts, it puts out 10 watts. It was relatively accurate. Sensitivity. To be honest, the sensitivity is not as good as a $4,000 or $3,000 transceiver. Of course it isn't. But it's not bad. It was on the order, when I measured it, of about a quarter to a half a microvolt. Newer transceivers are a tenth of a microvolt. To give that a little perspective, when I was a kid, the Hallicrafters receiver that I had, which was fairly highly regarded at the time, had 1 microvolt sensitivity, and I still worked all over the world with it. Selectivity on the G90, I'm avoiding saying the name Xeigu because I don't know how to pronounce it, is not as good, but it's $400 or less. The menu system is pretty extensive. So there are lots of things that are in this instruction book that the purchaser, the user, needs to read first. Read the instructions before you put the thing on the air. Can't tell me times I've run across somebody who has not read the instructions and their transmit quality is terrible. As far as the mechanics go, I don't like to comment on those things except to say I didn't see anything wrong with it. The major problem is its display size. Now, who would this transceiver likely work the best for? For the guys who operate POTA, it may be a very good choice because you can dial down the power and drop the current draw from 7 amps down to a smaller number for POTA and get the battery to last longer. There is no built-in battery. It has to be separate. The, we'll call it antenna tuner, is pretty forgiving and matched some bizarre loads that I put on it. So it has a built-in antenna tuner. It'll put out 20 watts. In the scheme of things, that's about one S unit down from 100 watts. With those that I talk to who know my voice and have talked to me, the transmit quality was good. There is not a built-in equalizer. There is a way to do that outboard. There is a speech processor of sorts inside that, when properly adjusted, the audio quality is really good. Back to the question, the basic question, is this a transceiver that a new guy could buy for around $400 and get on HF with some kind of antenna. Or go to a park and go on Parks on the Air kind of a thing. And the answer is, yeah. It really is. I was surprised as to how well it works. And others were too that had not heard one. I would like to hear from you. What do you think? I'm obviously not going to keep that. I don't need another transceiver. And I didn't explain to my wife that I was buying another one for that matter. What do you think? It's 20 watts, which is a big negative, but everything else looked pretty good. The specs in the instruction book and the data sheet match what it does. A few years ago, it would have been a top-of-the-line performing transceiver with those specs. What do you think? Is it something that someone should buy as a first transceiver, knowing that maybe when things improve, they can buy another transceiver that maybe has some more features built into it? Another comment about that transceiver, some might say, well, I can buy the basic transceiver and then add on things to make it a more robust experience. That's true, you can, but if you're going to do that, it's better to save your money and buy a transceiver that has all the stuff going for it and built into the box. The microphone has a bunch of switches on it. You can do all kinds of things with those switches, changing bands, changing frequency, changing modes, all kinds of neat stuff. So a new guy, and I'm saying guy, could be a gal, but a new operator is going to learn that the menu system is really important, and will learn what some of those things mean. What do you think? Did I go off on the deep end? Because I'm giving that a thumbs up. I think it makes a decent first transceiver for someone. What are your thoughts? Let me know. It's been out long enough where a lot of you have heard that particular transceiver on the air, or you own one. In fact, some guys I talk to have two. So, Xeigu, that's the thing too, is why not name it something that we can all pronounce? Xeigu? I don't know. The G90 part is fine, I guess, or maybe it should have been G20. That's one of the negatives. And some of the controls are really small, like the VFO knob. I'm a big believer in tuning up and down the band and listening. Let me know what you think. Post a comment below, and we'll go from there. I think it poses some very interesting questions, and in looking at what they have done, the companies that we're so used to purchasing from better be paying attention to companies like that. I'm Jim, W6LG in Rockland, California, saying 73. Thanks for watching. If you have not subscribed, please do that. I'm trying to build a legacy of videos. See you later. Thanks for watching.